So we had the Apollo program. That's when we sent the astronauts to the moon. There were three different scenarios for how we were going to do this. There was the direct scenario where we launch from Earth, right here, launch, fly, 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 land. There was the launch Earth orbit rendezvous. So launch, orbit, 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 and then the space launch craft is orbiting Earth, and then we eject from that and fly to the moon, land on the moon, and then take off from the moon, and then come back to the Earth orbiting vehicle, and then land from there. The one that they actually chose was launching from the Earth, orbiting around the moon, and then deploying from that launch vehicle to a lunar landing module onto the moon, and then reattaching with it, and then coming back to Earth. That's the option that they chose. And again, they use Saturn rockets. So, moon race was won by the United States. Booyah. In 1969, in July 1969. So they only had about 5 months to spare before making Kennedy a liar. And America is the only nation currently to have been on the moon. We had 5 more flights to the moon. 12 astronauts stepped on the moon. There is one of their step prints. And the last moon landing was in 72. That is a long time ago now. We are on, getting close to 50 years since the last time we were on the moon. Really up, since then, because of budgetary restraints and things like that, we just do all of our science at the space station. The U.S. government and U.S. population thought we don't really need anything more to do on the moon. We've done everything we need to do. Once people started hitting golf balls, they realized we don't need to pay for that anymore. So the equipment had to be rugged yet compact. Here's a little moon car. The rover, and I want you to take a look at this path, and this is really kind of cool. So we are launching, and then you can see on this, these are Saturn V rockets, so different stages are kind of leaving here. We get into orbit in the moon, and then with additional impulse, you break that orbit, but now you have an extremely high velocity. So you break that orbit at the correct moment, and now you're aiming and reaching towards, in three-dimensional space, towards the moon, and trying to hit that exact point where you can reach a good spot where you can orbit the moon. If you're too far out, you'll just glance off of it and go flying into space forever. If you're too close, then you get sucked into the moon's gravitational field. You won't be able to overcome that because fuel is a huge, important resource, and then you crash. I mean, it's incredible what was done with slide rulers and just very limited technology back when they did this. You need to be really impressed by the fact that we were able to do this in 1969. So then we orbit here, and then we deploy, we break off on the lunar landing module, land here, and then lift off. And once we lift off, then we have to have this tangential velocity to mate up with the orbiting vehicle here, so that we can actually connect up with it, because you can't just go straight off the moon, because you're going to smash into the module that's traveling, orbiting incredibly fast, and then enough fuel yet to release you from that orbit and cruise back to Earth. And then finally it's very small, there's not a whole lot left of it at this point, and then they land here. So really, really super cool. And I would suggest to you to look up some video on the landing of the of the Apollo capsule that landed from the moon. It's really sort of a cool historical event, and given that we haven't done it in 50 years, it was an amazing accomplishment. So I'm just kind of clicking through this. If you want to see this in more detail, good luck, because this is not a very good picture. You can probably find this online. So technology from these programs, Gemini and Apollo made electrical power from hydrogen oxygen fuel cells. So that's some technology that was developed there. Astronauts use scanning telescope and sextants to take star sites and plot position of spacecraft using star navigation. That's like on the open ocean. I mean, that's how amazing and crazy that this actually was, that we were able to do this. And guidance and navigation information was transmitted to Earth-based computers to calculate the course or velocity changes. Then they transmitted it back. It's insane. So we have since done experiments in space. There's Skylab, which then crashed back to Earth. That was an exciting moment. Google that. That's kind of cool. Or not cool, but there's Apollo Soyuz, and the Soyuz was the Russian version, and we're still using the Soyuz. Astronauts are landing and launching from Soyuz a lot. We no longer have the space shuttle. It's been decommissioned. There's some that are in space museums that are really, really awesome to see this thing. Um, and now we are doing experiments in space. Centaurus is working on experiments or has done experiments, depending on when you watch this, at the space station. And so that's really sort of cool that we are now a part of the history of the space station. The Hubble Space Telescope was part of that. That was launched by the space shuttle. We have the International Space Station that was put together by components from the space shuttle. A lot of countries are contributing. We're exploring planets. We've created this Mars, built this Mars rover, and now we're looking at going to Mars, which would be amazing if we actually got a chance to do that. This is not Mars, but they test it out in desert areas. So that is it for the space race. I hope you think space is as cool as I think it is.